I talked to Dr. Miriam Grossman. She's the author of Lost in Transnation, a child psychiatrist's guide out of the madness. And these are the questions that I asked her. I said, what should parents do if their child says, Mom, Dad, I'm trans? What does effective therapy for trans-identifying kids look like? I asked her, what do you do in your practice? And is it effective? What causes gender dysphoria? And should we even be using the term gender, or should we reject it? How can parents prevent the dreaded moment of their child saying, Mom, Dad, I'm trans? And what are parents' legal recourses for schools that indoctrinate kids with gender ideology? I also asked her how the institutions like the American Academy of Pediatrics became captured by radical gender ideology, this unscientific, harmful poison. And I asked her what role social contagion plays in rapid onset gender dysphoria. All right, she just came out with a new book. I have been reading this book all day. It's outstanding. It's called Lost in Transnation, a child psychiatrist's guide out of the madness. It's written by Miriam Grossman, Dr. Miriam Grossman. She's with me now. Dr. Grossman, thanks for joining the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Liz.
I get a lot of requests for people who want to come on my show to sell their book, and I'm kind of picky about doing a full episode with people based on their book. It really has to be a book that I personally like and have read for that to happen. This is outstanding. I mean, I want every parent in America, Republican and Democrat, religious, not religious, to read this book. I don't want to gush, but this is a much needed antidote to what we're facing in schools and on TikTok and with our kids. One of the sentences that you said in the beginning really stuck out at me. You said that you never intended for your practice, or you never expected in your practice when you first became a doctor, to run into gender identity disorders because they were so rare. But now your practice is entirely youth who suffer from gender disorders and their parents. What's that like?
Well, you're correct. I never imagined that I would see even one individual, because this condition of gender dysphoria, we used to call it gender identity disorder, was so very rare. I'm talking 1 in tens of thousands of people, that it was just something we read about in textbooks. And yes, so now that is all that I do. And what is it like? It is both very gratifying and very frustrating. So it's gratifying in that I find that with education and with proper psychotherapy of the young person and helping their parents to navigate this, you can definitely see change, and you can over time see young people move out of this and return to accepting and being comfortable and happy with their biology, with their bodies. And when that happens, of course, they're avoiding all the dangerous medical interventions, the blockers and cross-sex hormones, and of course the surgeries, which, as I explain in the book, have very sometimes very dire consequences. And you become basically a lifelong patient, because in order to keep up the appearance of the opposite sex, you need to be a lifelong consumer of pharmaceuticals, basically, of either estrogen or testosterone. And so when I'm able to help families and help young people avoid that, it's extremely gratifying. On the other hand, there are situations in which a child, and when I use the term child, I'm talking also about teenagers, is just very indoctrinated, and they are unable to consider any possibility they will not examine the ideas that they believe in, that they've been indoctrinated to think. They believe that there is only one solution to the way that they're feeling. And of course, the way that they're feeling may also include symptoms of anxiety and depression and being on the autism spectrum. A lot of these kids have been traumatized, they've been abused, and yet they've been led to believe by this gender ideology machine, belief system is what I call it, to think that there is only one solution. And they cannot tolerate any moving into any sort of gray area. Like maybe would you consider that perhaps we could look at it a different way? There might be other reasons for you to feel this way about your body. There might be reasons for you to reject your body. Maybe it's because you had a hard time, in middle school. Maybe your body developed early and you were bullied, or you were, you just hated those changes of adolescence, and you were anxious and depressed as it was, and you had family issues and everything. These are very complex patients. But what I'm trying to say, Liz, is that sometimes kids are just so indoctrinated that it's nearly, they just won't tolerate talking to someone like me, and I'm the enemy. I'm biased. I'm spewing hatred. One of my patients told me that I'm spewing hatred. What I'm doing is I'm trying to help kids so that they're not put on this assembly line, which is really what it is, assembly line toward irreversible physical changes. And we have no evidence that those medical interventions are even going to help in the long run, which is why, by the way, just recently, there was an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal written by 21 experts from 9 different countries. And they said in that op-ed, what are you doctors in the US doing with these kids? There is no evidence that you are helping them in the long term. So this is really a momentous thing when doctors from other countries will stand up and sort of point their finger at us here in the United States and say, what you're doing, there's no medical foundation for it. But parents don't hear about that. Parents don't realize when they go to their pediatrician or their gender therapist that there is this huge debate that's going on. So one of the purposes of my book, aside from telling parents to trust their gut and to not put their child in the driver's seat, they're the adult in the room. They know their child best.
Hi guys, it's Liz Wheeler. Don't forget to watch my show, The Liz Wheeler Show, every night at 7 p.m. on the First TV. You can download the free First TV app, or you can visit thefirsttv.com/Liz and start watching today.